Okay, so now we're good to go. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to a talk about Antarctica. Antarctica is one of my favorite places in the world. It's the seventh continent. It's where humans have arrived last, where nature is preserved to the most pristine way possible. It's a continent, meaning it's about twice the size of Australia, but with only 1,000 people living there, of 2,000 people in summer. So that's one of the reasons why it's still so pristine. And for me, when I go there, it feels like I'm going to another planet in a way. So it's just that unique. And I'm really excited to share with you this talk about Antarctica. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. And if you would like to join the trip there, of course, let me know. And again, without further ado, we'll start. So first of all, I'm Roy Galitz. I'm a wildlife photographer and Nikon Europe ambassador, as well as other brands. I'm doing a lot of stuff for the environment as well. Trying to do my best because, we go there so often, we just can't ignore what's going on there. And this is one of the reasons why I do everything that I do. And today I'm going to talk to you about Antarctica. And in case you don't know where Antarctica is, it's in the southern part of the world. And we're going to talk specifically about the peninsula of Antarctica. And so this is an incredibly beautiful, diversified area of Antarctica. This is like where most life is in Antarctica. And I think this is one of the things that make it more appealing. It's actually a continuation of the Andes, going all through South America, going under the Drake Passage, and then continuing onwards into the Antarctic Peninsula. So you can see it's basically it's the same mountain range as the Andes. So Antarctica is about 14 million square kilometers. That's 5.4 million square miles if you are doing freedom units. So it's by the Antarctic Treaty, it's owned by no one, but even though it's owned by no one, there are still claims for Antarctica. So there are countries that said, yeah, this is ours, but let's put a pin in that until the Antarctic Treaty is void. So this is why it's super complicated, but also in the same time makes it super simple because nobody owns currently any part of it. It doesn't stop several countries, China, from doing a lot of things in Antarctica, which is a little bit problematic when you think about it. If you want, I can elaborate on that later, but let's talk about the nature. I think that's more fun. Some cool facts about Antarctica. So fact number one, it's the highest continent in the world, average altitude of about 2,200 meters above sea level. And the second highest continent in the world is Asia at around 800 meters above sea level. So it's the highest continent in the world. It's also the coldest continent of the world. Of course, it makes sense. It's Antarctica. And it's not only because it's so far south, but also unlike the North Pole, Antarctica is land and the North Pole is sea. And sea actually is a bank of heat and warmth. And here, because it's land, it's actually colder. And the third reason why it's so cold, it's because of altitude. So the higher up you go in the mountain, the colder it gets. And as I've mentioned before, just a moment ago, Antarctica is the highest continent in the world, and the center of Antarctica is reaching altitudes of about 4,000 meters, which is pretty high up. It's the driest continent in the world. So if you think the biggest desert on Earth is the Sahara Desert, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Antarctica is a huge desert. Antarctica is the biggest desert on Earth. The center of the continent gets very, very few millimeters of precipitation. The coastal regions can get up to 200 millimeters of precipitation, which is still a desert. And that's why it's the driest continent in the world. But it also holds 97.6% of it is under ice, and 90% of the fresh water in the world is in Antarctica. So 70%, sorry, 70% of the fresh water in the world is in Antarctica. If Antarctica would have melted, which will take many, many thousands of years, then the sea level around the world will rise by 60 meters. So again, don't think that it will melt tomorrow. It will take a lot of time, just because the depth of the ice sheet in the center of the continent is about 3 kilometers. That doesn't melt in an instant, especially not when it's above. It's not above freezing. So besides that, there are about 500 million tons of krill in the Antarctic waters. So the krill is the base of the entire Antarctic ecosystem. Okay, it's the fuel that powers it, and this is why everything is feeding on krill, and that's why it's so important for the ecosystem. Okay, without these keystone species, all of Antarctica will be desolate. And of course, the tallest mountain is Vincent Massif. It's just next to the peninsula in the area in the west part of Antarctica. And that's the tallest peak. So in case somebody wants to climb all the 7 peaks, those persons need to climb Vincent Massif in Antarctica. So Antarctica is the way it is for several reasons, but one of the cool reasons about Antarctica, which also impacts our trip there, is the Antarctic Circumpolar Current. Okay, for short, it's called the ACC. So the ACC is flowing and accelerating all around Antarctica continuously for millions of years uninterrupted, and this is why it's such a powerful stream of water. So it conveys about 170 million cubic meters of water per second. So if you would take all the rivers on Earth and you combine them together, and then you multiply that by 100, you still wouldn't get the strength of the ACC. So the ACC is around 2,000 kilometers wide at its usual current, but in the Drake Strait, it actually narrows down to about 800 kilometers. So it's much, much more narrow. And it connects, the Atlantic Circumpolar Current actually connects 3 oceans. So that's the Pacific, the Atlantic, and the Indian Ocean. So that's the Drake Passage. You can see here on the map over here, that's the Drake Passage. And you can see the waves. That's from an app called Windy. So I really recommend, if you don't know Windy, I really recommend using it. And it can show you the waves in the Drake Passage at every moment, and also a forecast. So the average waves are 5 to 6 meters high. That's the average. But every few days you get a storm, and then you get 7 meters, 8 meters, 10 meters, and even 12 meters. And that's very substantial. Okay, that's something you really would like to avoid. Now, before we move on and look at some photos, let's talk a little bit about the history of Antarctica. So this is a really, really cool map from 1570 called Terras Orbis Terrarum. And this is the basically one of the first maps, accurate maps to have ever been made. And the cool thing about this map, you also have the equator. The equator over here. You also have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, but also you have the Arctic Circle as well as the Antarctic Circle. But if you look here below, you can say it says Terra Australis Incognita. Terra Australis Incognita. Terra means Earth, Australis means south, Incognita means unknown. So they speculated there's land down there, but nobody found it. But they also speculated there is land on the North Pole as well, as you can see here. Spoiler alert, there is no land in the North Pole. So they speculate there is land, and that's why they try to find it. They try to find it over and over and over again. Aristotle came with the name Antarctica in 350 BC. They called it Terra Australis, they called it Antarctica, and they called it Antarctica because it was opposite of the Arctic. And the Arctic is named after the Arctos, the Great Bear constellation. That's why it's called Arctic. And Antarctica is the opposite of the Arctic, and that's why it's called Antarctica. So that's the main goal of this continent. So we try to find it because they speculate there is Antarctica because Earth must be in balance. There's so much land in the northern hemisphere, so there must be more land in the southern hemisphere just to balance everything in the north. So Terra Australis, they call it since 1545, just because they already found Australia and they wanted to already call it Australia. They found it's a continent and not Antarctica. And then they kept looking for Antarctica. James Cook at 1775 tried to find Antarctica. He actually crossed the Antarctic Circle 3 times. 3 times he's crossed the Antarctic Circle trying to find Antarctica, but he never found it. And then he said, if I, Captain James Cook, did not find Antarctica, then it will never be found. Of course, spoiler alert again, sorry, it was found. So moving forward, in 1820, this was the first verified identification and discovery of Antarctica. It was done on January 27th, 1820 by Bellinghausen. Okay, so this is a selfie. No, just kidding. It's not a selfie. It's an artist depiction of what it was like to discover Antarctica. And here we have the ships arriving at Antarctica, and you see a bunch of penguins and a lot of ice. So these were the ships that Bellinghausen has arrived with. So the great explorers, Scott and Amundsen were racing for the South Pole. Amundsen beat Scott. Scott died on the way back. Shackleton tried to cross. He didn't make it. He was stuck in the ice until he was rescued, and he rescued all of his friends and all of his mission. And so there's a lot of stories, a lot of history on Antarctica. I don't want to get too far deep into that just because we would never finish this talk. And there is still a lot to talk about when we reach Antarctica. So let's leave something for later on. So when we go to Antarctica, today we fly. Okay, so we fly from Punta Arenas, from Chile. We fly into Antarctica to the South Shetland Islands, an island called King George Island. And we fly on this cool 4-jet engine jet. And it's so much more comfortable. Okay, instead of sailing for 50 to 60 hours, you fly for just under 2 hours and you arrive. So imagine the great explorers, James Cook, okay, or Shackleton, seeing that the way we're doing it today. So we fly into Antarctica. We don't need to cross the Drake. And once we arrive in Antarctica, we get on our ship. And when we get on our ship, we start cruising all the way south and then sailing back north. Every day we stop for 2 stops, basically. And we do some landings on land on the Antarctic Peninsula and on the islands around the peninsula to get some cool images and some cool action. Sorry, I would have made you coffee, but I didn't know if you wanted. So after we cruise, we get back to King George Island. And from King George Island, we fly back to Punta Arenas. That's the way we usually do the trip in Antarctica. The plane itself is a very nice plane, BAE 175. It's a really nice jet. Its nickname is Jambolino, like the Jambo, but smaller, Jambolino. This is me holding the Forteva sign, and inside there's very nice seating. So you fly, you drink a cup of coffee, eat a sandwich, and land. Much nicer than crossing the Drake. Believe me, I've done it. And then we land in Antarctica and we start sailing. So in Antarctica itself, let's talk about Antarctica. And you can't talk about Antarctica without talking about ice. So ice is everything in Antarctica. It's art, it's beauty, it's abstract, it's the base, again, of this ecosystem. You have the phytoplankton living on the ice, doing its photosynthesis. You have the zooplankton eating those phytoplankton, and then you have the penguins eating the zooplankton. And again, this is the circle of life in a way. So ice is amazing and ice is extremely impressive. So there is no place on Earth where ice is impressive as it is in Antarctica. And let's talk a little bit about the celebrities of Antarctica, which are the penguins. So penguins are very diversified species, okay? And we're talking about Antarctica, we're talking about several species of penguin, which are the king penguin, the emperor penguin, the Gentoo penguin, the Adelie penguin, the chinstrap penguin, and these are the main four penguins that we usually see in Antarctica. In the sub-Antarctic island, we also see the Magellanic penguins, and we see the king penguins, of course, and the macaroni penguin and rockhopper penguins. But in Antarctica itself, we usually see only the emperor penguin, Gentoo penguin, Adelie penguin, and chinstrap penguin. So these are the penguins. I can do an entire talk about penguins, but let's move forward. So when we are there, it all depends on the season, when you are in the season. So every part of the season has different kind of action in the life cycle of the penguins. So in December, we still have a lot of snow. And because we have so much snow, the penguins they still don't nest. So they're building their nest. So they need to build their nest on solid ground. And again, snow is not solid. It moves, it melts, it's not a good place to have your nest on if you were trying to build a nest. So they're trying to find some dry land, some mud, some rocks, and then they build their nest. The males build the nest. And as the males build the nest, they wait for the females. The females come, they mate, and then the males finally go to the sea to eat, just because they didn't eat anything while they were building the nest and guarding the nest, so nobody else takes their pebbles. And by the way, why did they use pebbles? Because that's all they have. They don't have any twigs or branches or anything else. They have just rocks. And the pebbles actually create pockets of air where the air is actually insulating the eggs from the frozen ground. So that's why they're using these pebbles. And the females usually like the males with the biggest nests, and that's what they choose. So here you can see a female with a big nest, and all the other females are quite jealous. So you can see this action unfolding in front of you. So these are, again, Gentoo penguins. And then this is in December, January. And then at the end of January, mid-January, the eggs hatch, and then they grow their young chicks. Sometimes they're twin, but usually it's just one. And then they grow their chicks. At the end of January, they're already quite big. And then you can see great weather. That's a feeding. And here you can see this is a teenager and their parent, and the parent is behaving with the teenagers the way parents deal with teenagers. And so this is the end. So this is already February, mid-February. And then when they are in the end of February, early March, the chicks fledge. So they leave the colony. They go in the water for the first time, because until then their feathers are not waterproof. They go in the water, and then they just swim away and get to know the world. They grow, they eat krill on their own instead of waiting for the parents to come and feed them. So this is basically, again, the life cycle of the penguin. So whenever you come in the season, depends on what you will see in terms of the life cycle of the penguins. So you can see these are, again, Adelie penguins, as I mentioned. So Gentoo penguins, as you can see, they're living on the ice. This is sea ice, floating sea ice. Sorry, not sea ice, a glacier, iceberg, sorry. They just live on the icebergs when they're at sea. And when they're on land, they live next to the snow and ice. And of course, when they swim, they hop and jump out of the water just in case there is a predator around, like a leopard seal or an orca. So under the water, they're very streamlined. Again, penguins are amazing swimmers. So basically, penguins stopped flying. They gave up their ability to fly, and they gained the ability to fly underwater. So they are amazing swimmers. And the fastest penguin swimming is actually the Gentoo penguin, the one I showed you before. But every other penguin, depending on the niche they occupy in the ecosystem, has their own special ability or special power, if you like, in the water. And that brings me to the next penguin on the list. This is the Adelie penguin. So Adelie penguins are really badass. Okay, so they're amazing penguins. So they are the second penguin to overwinter in Antarctica. So the first one is the emperor penguin, and these are the Adelie. Adelies are also wintering in Antarctica. They grow their chicks, and the chicks are very adorable. They're so ugly, they're cute. Okay, so these are some penguin chicks, Adelie penguin chicks, and this is a teenager with a fro. Today's kids are also they also have this kind of hair. So again, this is an Adelie teenager. This is just before fledging. This is end of February. So again, every time of the year, as I mentioned, every time of the season, they look different, they behave different, they do other things. Okay. By the way, again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Yeah, it's open right here in front of me. Okay, so these are the Adelie penguins. Here's another example of Adelie jumping in the water and getting out of the water. The third kind of penguin on the list is the chinstrap. By the way, I didn't mention it, but of course, I think it's obvious. But all the photos in the presentation are photos I took in previous Antarctica expedition. Just making sure it's if you have questions on the photos, feel free to ask me. So these are chinstrap penguins. Chinstrap penguins. Usually we see them on the Southern Shetland Islands, Half Moon Island, and that area. So again, very easy to see them, very predictable. Again, weather depending. And again, this is in January with the younger chicks, and then later with the older chicks. These are the emperors. So the emperor penguins, I know they are the largest penguin, and I know they are the top of many of your wish list of penguins to see. But, and here I'm sorry to disappoint you, the chances of seeing an emperor are not so great. Sometimes we see them, sometimes we don't. So I don't want to promise anything. In order to see the emperors, I do plan on doing an emperor penguin expedition. It's in November. So in November, you still have the big colonies, and then later you just see them one here, one there. But the problem is, if you want to go see the emperor, basically on that expedition, if you want to see properly doing it, I mean the right way, that's all you'll see. All you'll see is emperors and nothing else, which is again not a bad thing. I'm not saying I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just setting the expectations. But then again, okay, you can arrive and see them. You fly in. Their colony is far away from sea. So you either fly in with a helicopter or you fly in with an airplane, depending on where you are in the Antarctic continent. And then we can go there and spend 2-3 days with the emperor, getting all the photos we want, with midnight sun, with amazing weather. But this will be just an emperor expedition, nothing else altogether. Otherwise, you'll just see them like that, okay? Which is, again, not a bad thing. It is what it is. But you can see them sometimes on ice as solitary penguins, but not in the colony. Other birds. So we have the giant petrels, and we have the Antarctic skua, and we have the sheepbills, and the Antarctic terns feeding storm petrels, and the Antarctic shags. So there is a lot of bird life in Antarctica. So in case you're an amateur ornithologist, you can count on seeing a lot of birds. Besides the birds, we also have the seals. So seals are awesome. I love seals. And this is the Weddell seal. It's actually one of my favorite seals in the world. They are so adorable. They are actually very hardy. They dive very deep. And they're actually the seal that goes furthest south out of any other seal. So they've been found at 78 degrees south. Here you can see a Weddell seal chilling out with a Gentoo penguin in front of him. This is just a photo of me from 10 years ago in Antarctica. And these are the leopard seals. So leopard seals are my favorite seals in Antarctica. Leopards are awesome. They have this nice serpentine kind of smile. They're extremely intelligent, and they are they look adorable, but they are vicious penguin killing machines, and that's what they do. That's what they eat. They can also eat krill. They also eat a lot of krill, but they do prefer penguins, especially when they're fledging. That's when they're easier to catch. But they do eat also a lot of krill. Krill is the main part of their diet, but they also eat penguins. They also eat happy feet. Um, this is a fur seal again in Antarctica, and this is a crab eater seal. Okay, the name is misleading. They don't eat crabs; they eat krill. Okay, so they're also adorable. They usually like to hang out together. They really love hanging out of icebergs and sea ice. And besides seals, we also have whales. So we have a lot of whales, which is a great sign because they were hunted to almost extinction. And today you have in every expedition, I can say, so the whales come in early mid January. So in December, we see very few whales, if any. But in February, we see a lot. So I would say, end of January until end of February, we see at least 100 whales in every expedition, which is amazing. Here you can see a mother with her calf, and you can see she's actually teaching the calf how to do bubble net feeding. And this photo was taken with a 24 to 70 millimeter lens. The behind the scenes looks like this. That's me with the guests. I'm photographing the mother and the calf. And this is with a little bit of a zoom in. This is with a 70 to 200. Again, getting those details with the baleen, which are awesome. Again, I don't want to get too deep into the technicals about whales, but whales are extremely, extremely awesome. The way they behave, the way they communicate, the way they eat, the way they use tools like bubbles to gather the krill. So again, humpbacks are really, really cool. Humpbacks in sunset and humpbacks eating at sunset. And then this is from above where you can see the bubble net feeding. This is with a video. Again, just show you just how cool they are when they are eating. Venki is asking which month is that? So the whales, this is end of January. Second half of January until the end of February, early March. Okay. So Phil is asking, is it okay to bring a drone with you and fly in Antarctica for the videos? So the short answer is no. So every ship, there is a very long process of getting approval for flying a drone. And I have this special permit, which takes forever and very expensive to fly a drone in Antarctica. But that being said, that's with the commercial tourism ships. What we do, so we have trips on the big ships big. It's not big, it's 65 people. But we have trips on those ships, and we also have trips on a 12 people boat with a research permit because we're doing some research on board the ship. And there we can fly drones. Also, the guests. Also, if you're coming on the trip, you can fly a drone. So on the 12 people sailboats, we can fly drones. On the everything above, without a research permit, you cannot fly drones. That's basically the short answer for a very complicated subject, but this is the bottom line. Okay. Dennis is asking, what is the baggage allowance on the charter flight? So it's usually around 20 kilograms, 20 to 25 kilograms, depending on the flight. But that's luggage and carry-on together. So the total. So usually it's 5 carry-on and 15 baggage cleared in, checked in luggage. That's usually the case. But what I do is I do 15 kilograms carry-on and 5 kilograms checked in luggage. So and of course I remind you that when you fly into Antarctica, you wear on you the heavy gear. the ski pants, the snow pants, the coat, the boots, everything you need, you will be taking with you. So wearing on you, I mean. So that you deduct that from your carry-on or your checked luggage because you're not going to put it in, you're going to wear it. Okay. So here we see kayaks with minke whale. Sunsets in Antarctica are epic. Every sunset is amazing. Here are some whales. You can also swim in Antarctica if you'd like, polar plunge if you may. The next photo is one of my favorite ones. This is the sunset in Antarctica. And here you can see a tabular iceberg over 100 meters tall. And you can see at the bottom of the iceberg, you can see those little pixels over here. Here, these are penguins. So these are Adelie penguins on this big, big piece of ice. And these are usually the big ones, like this. They're in a very specific area called Antarctic Sound. But I mean, they can be found everywhere, anywhere. But Antarctic Sound usually is where you see the big, big bad boys like this one. So we try to be there around sunset just because the light is the best. Again, when we get there, depending on the schedule, depending on the itinerary, depending on every trip and what we do there. So yeah, it's quite impressive. Another example, this photo is from last February. Here you can see a humpback whale chasing away penguins, and you can see us in the Zodiac when I was flying the drone. Looks like a bouquet. And here you can see another cool image where you see looks like a flower, and there is a whale, a humpback whale. This is a leopard seal. These are all photos from last February. Okay, a leopard seal, another leopard seal. This is with a 24 millimeter lens. This is with a 70 to 200 millimeter. So 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8 is usually the go-to lens in Antarctica. It's the most usable. So this is again another one with the leopard seal. You can see a male and a female. Here you can see a whale pooping, and he has a pink poop because they eat krill, and krill is pink. Here we can see a pod of orcas. So orcas in Antarctica are type B2 orcas, which means these orcas are eating mammals. And there are specific areas where they like to hang out in Antarctica, these pods. So we usually try to reach there. But it takes a little while to get there just because it's a little bit further away south. But on the longer trips, we always try to get there just because we want to be lucky. So these are the orcas that eat mammals. This is a pod of 9 orcas. So it's a matriarch society. So the mothers are the one leading the pod. And the cool thing about them, so we saw them homing on a minke whale. And we thought they're going to hunt the minke whale. And then suddenly they turned around and they saw a crab-eater seal. And then they went for the seal. So when they got to the seal, you can see the seal is a little bit stressed. I mean, I don't blame him. And then they tried to attack the seal and get and hunt the seal. But the interesting thing, they kept on catching the seal and releasing it. This is from a drone. Catching and releasing, catching and releasing. And then we understood that this is actually a lesson because the younger ones were trying to catch the seals and the older ones were trying to teach them on how to hunt the seal. So again, this is a crab-eater seal. He didn't give up. He kept on fighting until eventually, at some point, we had to leave. So again, this is with a drone in the southern part of Antarctica, the Antarctic Peninsula. Here we can see another zodiac of ours with minke whale. This is actually the minke whale that the orcas initially tried to hunt, and then they just let go. They went for the seal. These are the kayaks with humpback whales. Okay, this was quite an amazing experience for the kayakers just to be that close with the humpback whale. We've had people there with tears in their eyes from excitement. Again, kayaking in Antarctica is pretty cool. Here you can see a humpback whale next to our Zodiac. Again, an amazing experience just to be so close. I always recommend when we talk about gear, bring a GoPro or an Osmo or a Insta360 camera or something you can stick in the water and just get a wide angle shot of whales, leopard seals, or whatever we can find, just because it's so mind blowing. I have a cool video, which I will post on Instagram. I didn't post it yet, of a leopard seal trying to bite my camera. I will show you that. Okay. So again, ice is epic, and this is the guest next to a big piece of ice. And then we have this is a penguin, a pretty grown chick. This is also mid end of second third of, I would say, of February. Some more photos of guests just to show you how far or close we are from a leopard seal. By the way, the pink part you see, this is not blood, this is poop. The leopard seal was eating krill, and that's why it's pink. And some more cruising around next to whales with ice. So basically, to go to and travel in Antarctica, we operate 3 different ships. So we have this ship, which is a 65 people ship. And the size is really, really, really important because you need to remember that the landings in Antarctica are limited to 100 people at once. So let's say you're going on a big ship, 180. If you're going 180, then you can do half of the ship at one time, and then the second half of the ship on another occasion. So you're ending up spending half of the trip waiting for your turn to go on land. Okay, this is with over 100. If your ship is under 100, then everyone can go ashore at the same time, and then you can have as much time as you'd like ashore without being stressed to go back to the ship because there is another group waiting to come ashore. So this is one option. This is a 65 people ship. She's very nice. She's very sturdy. You don't get really seasick. It's really nice ship to be on board. Good food, good service, really beautiful. That's option 1. Option 2 is to go on a smaller vessel. And a smaller vessel like this one, this is a sailboat, 12 people only. So we charter this ship every year for 2 months. And then we can go on board the ship, and it's 12 people only. And with the 12 people, you every room has private showers and toilet. So you have your own privacy. This is considered to be a luxury ship. Again, I know it might not fit your concept of luxury, but when it comes to sailboats, this is considered luxury. The fact you have a toilet and shower in every room, this is luxury. The beds are bunk beds, but every bed is 1.2 meters wide, so it's quite spacious. Of course, we have good food, good chef, an amazing ship, and the fact that it's with sails means that you're harnessing the power of the wind in a way, and you're not polluting as much, and you're faster. So this ship can do 8-10 knots, which is not bad at all. And also, when we don't have wind, of course, we have an engine, which of course we will use. And yeah, it's a very nice ship. So she's 38 meters long, and we have 2 masts, 28 meters tall each, and a really nice ship. So these are the prices. Of course, a 12 people ship. So, so I didn't mention the 65 people ship. It's around $15,795 per person. $15.8 thousand. This is around $19,000 to $22,000 a person. This is the early bird for 2027. And the reason why I'm showing you 2027 is the fact because our 2026 is fully booked. We can put you on standby. We might have an opening. so we can have you on standby in case something clears up, because again, we know there might be something clearing up. And other than that, we already started signing up people for 2027. So yeah. Kfir is asking, does the 12 people sailboat get to more areas than the 65 people ship? The answer is yes. The answer is yes because of two reasons. One, it's a longer trip. So instead of the 65 people, we have a 6-day sailing. Okay, 8 days total, 6 days sailing. And we have 10 days total, 8 days sailing. And this is 10 days sailing, the sailboat. So first of all, it's longer by 4 days than the normal, the classic 65 people ship. So it's much longer. So you have more opportunities. And second is because it's 12 people with just 2 zodiacs. And so unloading and loading the ship, disembarking and embarking is super quick. Everything is within minutes, unlike the big ship where you arrive and it takes 30 to 60 minutes to disembark. Here, everything happens instantly. So we are much more agile, much quicker, which makes sense. This is a professional photography trip. Okay, so here we can, again, the fact that we are not limited, because we have the research permit, the fact that we can fly drones, the fact that we are a small vessel of 12 people, and the fact that we have more time because it's 10 days makes it an amazing trip. Just a sec, Venki, I will answer that question in 3 minutes. So this is the 12 people luxury ship for 2027. And we also have a cheaper version of 18 people ship, 18 people, which is a bigger vessel. And this ship is much cheaper. So it's at around 14,900 euros per person. So it's a much cheaper vessel. And the reason why it's cheaper is actually 2 reasons. One reason is that it's 18 people and not 12. The second reason is because not every room has a shower and toilet. So every 2 rooms share a shower and toilet. So that's why it's cheaper. And again, at 14,900 euros per person, it's for 10 days. Okay, 10 days in Antarctica. That's almost double the classic trip. It's also a professional photography trip. You can also fly drones here. And it's a very, very good ship. So again, we also have that for 2027. We have 2 departures and you can choose. Again, also for the previous one, we have here 3 departures. So 3 departures that are open. We also have others that are already closed, already booked. And we have these 2 in the 18 people ship. So, and the other option is what Venki is asking here, which tour is for the Emperor Penguins? So we do have that. That's in November 2026 or 2027. We need to see if we have spots yet left. And with that trip, we fly from Punta Arenas to Antarctica to a place called Union Glacier. And from there, we fly into the Emperor Penguin colony. And over there in the Emperor Penguin colony, we spend 2-3 days in the colony. And over there, but the problem with this trip is, again, 2 things. One, it's only Emperor, just remember that. And we have a little bit of other stuff, but it's mostly Emperors. And second is that it's very expensive. So that trip is around $61,000 for the Emperors, $61,000 to $65,000, depending on which trip we're going at. That's one option, one issue that I want to bring up now. And the second reason, again, as I mentioned, it's tougher because we are on land. We are staying in a camp. The camp is nice. It's very comfortable. There is a toilet tent and a shower tent and a kitchen tent. We bring a cook. We bring food. But it's more, I would say, more of an expedition trip than the the sailboat or the 65 people ship. Okay, so just you need to be prepared for that. Okay, so this is the trip for the emperor penguins, and we need 12 people on that group to make it um, a pro photography trip that will allow us to have the flexibility. So we need 12 people, and then we can do this trip. So that's why I didn't do it yet, because I couldn't get 12 people to that trip. The maximum I had was 8, and I don't want to do that unless we know we can do it the way I wanted to do it. I want it professional. That's the main thing. So yeah, any other questions that I missed? No, I think we're good. So the answers are A. So we have 3 options: the 65 people boat, the 12 people boat, sailboat, and the 18 people sailboat, and the emperor penguins. These are the options that we have on the table. You can choose which one you would like. And if you would like to join one of them, just of course let me know on the email that I sent you with the link to the talk, or to the email listed on the screen. You can join still the 2026